This was me a couple of weeks ago, and as you can tell, I'm absolutely peeled to the bone, shredded. The amount of compliments I get day to day from people coming up to me, validation on Instagram, likes, messages about looking this way, like, oh my God, it's so inspiring, it's so crazy, it's so cool. You would think that my life was absolutely fantastic when I was looking like this, when I was this lean. I'm gonna tell you that it is completely the opposite, bro. Getting this lean is not enjoyable, it is not fun, and for the vast majority of people, it is not worth it. Put some really like dramatic music over this and like maybe some thunder and background. In this video, I'm going to explain to you the dark side, what they do not tell you, what they're hiding from you about being shredded. Basically, being that lean is absolutely awful. And this isn't going to be a video where I'm like, oh, you should love yourself and fat acceptance and body positivity and all this absolutely stupid BS that I do not agree with in any way whatsoever. For a solid 3 months, I did not have a sex drive. I'm talking like no sex drive at all. It's just starting to come back now. No morning wood, no erections, nothing. It's super weird. I would have no desire for sex. I could see like an absolute 10, my girlfriend obviously, with no clothes on whatsoever, and just feel nothing remotely sexual whatsoever. Obviously, that's not distracting in any way whatsoever, and I wasn't distracted by things like sex, but equally, it's shit. Because obviously testosterone is responsible for muscle mass, it's responsible for mood, it's what makes a man ultimately, and you're getting to these levels where it's just gonna be completely eradicated.
I'm editing this video, right, and what I want to say is this picture here, this is not maintainable. Like, unless you're using copious amounts of gear, you cannot maintain this naturally. So people ask, like, how do you get like this? How do you stay like this? You literally can't. It's just with a pump, with carbohydrates in you. At this very moment in time, when I took this picture, I was able to look like this. The other 99% of the time, like, I look small, I look flat, I look like this. The other thing I've got to mention, I want to show you, is this is my blood work at the start of prep. So when I was in Thailand at the start of prep in like January, before I started the diet, when I was nice and chubby looking like this was my testosterone levels. These are my testosterone levels about 3 weeks after the prep. So after I've gained about 3-4 kilograms of weight, so it's already come back up, and you can see it's significantly lower than it was at the start, and it was probably a hell of a lot lower than that immediately after the show, but I didn't get my blood work done. To show you how extreme it gets from chronic at this is my brother Tom at the start of his prep versus the end of his prep, and as you can see, his testosterone is literally completely gone.
As we diet down, we want to bring calories lower. So as we start to bring calories lower and fat starts to get lower as well, once fat comes to about 20% below of our total daily calories, we start to inhibit the amount of testosterone that we can actually produce. Hormones are synthesized from fats, and then the fact as well that you just have no energy whatsoever. Your body basically goes into this like survival starvation mode, where a combination of these things mean that your body just doesn't want to produce testosterone anymore because it is not a priority. It just wants to eat. So combine the low dietary fats with no energy and being super shredded, and you literally have no testosterone, bro. The way that you can kind of offset this is by keeping fats at least 20% of your total calories and above, making sure you're getting really good fat sources when you are eating fat. So like things like fish, eggs, avocados, nuts, like good sources of fats, omegas, etc. So ultimately, if you are getting this lean, it doesn't matter how much fat you're eating, you are gonna get to a point where your testosterone just goes. This is kind of obvious, but you have no energy. And I'm not talking about no energy like, oh, you feel a little bit hungry or you feel a little bit tired. Like, you have absolutely no energy whatsoever. I was on like 1700 calories, doing 40 minutes cardio 6 times a week, 12,000 steps a day. And I got to a point where I was doing my steps at night. I hadn't done them. It was like 11:30, 12 p.m. I was on the phone to my girlfriend trying to get the steps done before the clock ticked over, because I have to get my steps done every single day. And I remember walking and literally hallucinating, bro. You might call BS on this, but literally like seeing things, hallucinating, struggling to pick my legs up. It gets to a point where you'll be walking outside and you'll see a curb, literally like a 6-inch curb or a sidewalk, whatever you want to call it. And you'll get to that curb and you'll have to physically try and think about lifting your legs up or walking up a straight incline or walking up a set of stairs. Is like the most exhausting thing. I would speak slower, I would think slower, I wouldn't be as sharp, my voice would be more quieter, I didn't have the energy to actually speak properly. You stop doing things like fidgeting because your body is literally trying to conserve every single calorie. On my phone right now, what I've got is my data, my sleep data from my Oura Ring. I started the prep in January, and as you can see, my resting heart rate is 53 beats per minute. And then as we go through it, February, March, April, May, my resting heart rate drops by about 20%. And the main reason for that is just because I'm on so few calories that my actual heart rate is slowing down. Everything is slowing down in order to preserve the little calories that I have to stop me from effectively starving to death. So your body is trying to balance it out. Your body doesn't want it to get shredded. Obviously, doing all the cardio and other things as well is going to help bring my heart rate down. But the main factor that would have brought that down is literally just the sheer lack of food that I was eating. So to prove that point, my resting heart rate is now back up to 51 BPM in a month. It's gone up by 10 BPM p.m. and I'm doing more cardio than I was previously, so I'm going to be fitter than I was previously. The only thing that has changed is my food. This one sucks because I love sleep. When you get to a certain level of leanness, your sleep becomes absolutely terrible, man. Like really, really bad. Anything will wake you up. If I slept with my girlfriend and she moved or she touched me, I would be wide awake. And then you can't get back to sleep because you're so hungry. All you can think about is food. Oh, bro, it's so hot in here. I'll show you my grotesque whale-like body. I've got so fat, bro. It's just water weight, bro. This is my sleep data from my Oura Ring. And as you can see, I started off averaging about 7.5 hours sleep a night at the start of prep. And then around March, April time, I bottomed out on about 6.5 hours average sleep a night, bro. And I remember one night I went to bed and I woke up really, really tired. I was starving hungry, I was wide awake. I was like, all right, time to get up now. Check the clock. And it was midnight. I lay in bed with my eyes closed, trying to get back to sleep. The stomach's like groaning. I'm like absolutely reeling with hunger. Finally managed to fall asleep. And then I'd wake up again. I'd be like, okay, thank God, it's time to wake up, it's time to eat. Look at my phone, look at my watch, it'd be like 1:30 in the morning. I did this every single hour. It was like 5 a.m. and it happened again. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get up and start my day. And then every single day, I would wake up without an alarm, no matter what time I went to bed, at about 5 or 6 a.m., just because my body was so hungry. And then another thing that I've never suffered of as well is the amount you need to pee. I sleep through the entire night and pee in the morning. But when I was this level of lean, I would wake up about 3 times every single night and need to go for the biggest pee. When we start to diet down, when we reduce food, our body needs to get energy from elsewhere. So what it will do is go into our glycogen stores in our muscles and in our liver, which are basically like a stored form of carbohydrates. Glucose in our blood is converted into glycogen. That glycogen is stored in our muscles to be used for later, like when we need it, if we're going through periods of starvation, like a diet. And when we break down that glycogen in our muscles, so the actual breaking down of the glycogen molecule, we form about 3 grams of water for every 1 gram of glycogen that we break down. When you're breaking down this glycogen, like when you're fasting or when you're asleep, for example, you're going to be dumping a lot of water if you're breaking through his glycogen stores. Also, what happens as well is at night, because we're fasted and we're not eating anything at all, you'll start to actually break down fat cells which will produce ketones. These ketones are then going to be excreted in the urine as well, which will increase your urinary output. Because you've got less food, because you've got lower energy, because you've got lower body fat, because you move less and you've got lower body fat, you are literally cold all the time. So at night, you're going to get colder, which means there's going to be more blood in your central extremities, more pressure on the kidneys, on the organs around there, which means you're going to excrete more urine as well. You're just like a peeing machine, mate. That brings me on to the other one. You are freezing cold all the time. And I'm talking like it'll be 20, 21, 22, 23, 25 degrees outside. It'll be warm. People will be walking around in t-shirts and shorts. And I used to live in this puffer jacket and hat all the time. Like in my old content, you might think my house is freezing, the heaters were on full blast. I was freezing cold all the time, 24/7, just because again, your body doesn't have the energy to like use to make heat. On the last few months of my contest prep, I could just not get a pump. You get no pumps, no enjoyment of training whatsoever. I'll put some graphs behind me on my lifts throughout the duration of my prep, like a few random lifts. I track all of my workouts, by the way. And as you can see, like you get to a point where everything just starts to deteriorate. Like in the first few months, I actually managed to improve. I say this to a lot of guys that I coach. Like, when you are dieting, there is no reason why you can't build a little bit of muscle at the start. If you're on a new structured training plan, a completely new way of training. So I got stronger in pretty much every single lift because I was just absolutely nailing it, my coach, on the first few months. But then after that, bro, when my body fat gets to a certain point, everything just goes down. Every session is awful. You just regress in every single lift in the gym. Oh man, that's the other one as well. Caffeine and nicotine addiction is and was through the absolute roof. So I would wake up and I'd have a double or a triple shot espresso. I'd then wait a couple of hours. I'd then crack open a white monster and then I'd wait a few hours. Then I'd have like a 400 milligram pre-workout to get me through the session. And then maybe I'd have a coffee as well afterwards, like in the evening. Built this monstrous caffeine tolerance, bro. And I still got it like pretty bad. I still need the coffee every single day. Throw in nicotine as well in the last 2 weeks of the contest prep. I actually started vaping. I haven't got any vapes or anything like that. I just threw them all out because like, you know what? Screw it. I'm so hungry. I'm just going to start inhaling nicotine and coffees. I've left the biggest one to last. And this is the eating disorder, binge eating type relationship that you develop with food. And I've done a physique show in the past before this, and I basically just spiraled out of control after the show, gained probably about 10, 11, 12 kilos over the next month, was eating every single day, and went from looking like this to like this by the end of it, mate. The first ever men's physique show that I did, I was in university. After the show, I thought it'd be a great idea to go to an all-you-can-eat buffet afterwards. And I ate so much food, I was throwing up in the toilet at the buffet for the meal, and then I'd come back out and eat again. What it does to your brain, being this lean, you just want to eat absolutely anything and everything, man. Ignoring everything else, that is probably the most damaging thing from this, because you actually get this really bad psychological relationship with food where you get this binge eating type disorder if it's not done in the right way. When you get super, super lean, your body is literally like a sponge. So it wants to absorb all the nutrients that it possibly can, aka you're just going to store everything as fat if you're binge eating out of control like this guy. In severely obese people, right, when they filled up all their fat cells and the fat cells are saturated because they've got so fat, they actually get this thing called fat cell hyplasia where the fat cells multiply and they produce more fat cells, which are going to be like these fat cells or empty bags, even if they lose the weight, that are going to be there on them for life. So they're going to store fat differently and more easily for the rest of their life because of this fat cell hyplasia. Recently, it's been discovered that there is another circumstance that happens. That is in people that have chronically dieted down to unfathomably lean levels like myself here, and people who start binge eating, like eating loads of calories and excess of calories. You can actually get this fat cell hyplasia happening as well, which means you're permanently going to have more fat cells on your body. Going into the diet, there's a few things that I did moving forwards differently in order for this binge eating not to happen and to get like a really, really unhealthy relationship with food. First thing I did was I did not restrict anything. Anything that I wanted to eat, I would eat, but I just eat it in small amounts. So in the past, I've literally counted out grains of rice, like gram for gram. I wouldn't eat any kind of not clean foods, but if it fitted my macros and I wanted it, I would have it. If my girlfriend, for example, was eating an Oreo chocolate bar and I really, really wanted to try it, previously I'd tell myself like, no, you can't have that. It's going to ruin your progress. Like you're not allowed that. But this time, like if I wanted to try it, I'll just try it. Like even like a week, 2 weeks out of my show, I'd have like a little nibble of the corner, like half a square, maybe like 50 calories. I wouldn't track it. I wouldn't be wondering what it tasted like. I'd literally try some and taste it and be like, this is really, really good. This tastes really nice. And then I'd reframe it in my mind. I wouldn't think I can't have this. I'd be like, I'm choosing not to have it because I don't want it, because it doesn't align with the person that I want to be. And I can try it and I can realize that it tastes nice and I can appreciate it, like a little bit of it. But I didn't do this thing in the past where I'd just restrict absolutely everything like bodybuilders do. Second thing that I did was I kept goals in place after the show. I'm going to Ibiza. I'm going back to Thailand. I've started Muay Thai as well. I'm actually got to stay like light for Muay Thai. I've got to be good at that. I'm going to start going back to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and also skydiving as well. Like, I've set myself a strict weight cap of 87 kilos and I've actually got a reason to train, to keep going, to stay motivated rather than just feeling like really lost when you get to the end of a diet and you've got no goal, you don't know what to do and you put back all the weight. The third thing that I did was I stayed with my coach as well. In the past, I'd done my show and I left my coach because obviously don't want to pay for a coach because it's not cheap. Obviously, yeah, I've gained body fat. Like I don't feel good being that lean. I didn't want to stay that lean. Yeah, I'm like at 80, just below 87. I'm feeling pretty watery. My abs are washed out, but it's going to balance out. And I've been good on my diet. I've been tracking things pretty well. I'm doing my cardio, doing my cardio, my weights, Jason Genova. Obviously, those things aren't good, but there are also pros to getting this lean as well. And the mental resilience, the mindset it gives you, the discipline is just unmatched, mate. And that's why I will do it again. That's why I will compete again. That's why I will get this lean and beyond again, even though all these things happen, just because of the mindset that it puts you in, like this work, hustle, grind mentality where you can just get through anything, mate, is absolutely crazy. My heart rate variability as well was like over 200, I think 250 at some point. The average heart rate variability for a man is like, I think it's around the 100 mark. So my fitness was absolutely insane as well, just from all the cardio, losing the weight, actually being more stoic and just being absolutely locked in as well. And this is the reason that I did it. It wasn't to win like a fancy trophy or a medal, whatever. Obviously that would have been nice and that's what I was going for. That's what I did and that's what's cool. But the main reason I did it, like I said at the start of the year, was because it scared me. I wanted to do something that would give me a goal, give me a purpose, make me driven. And doing this thing just gave me that purpose and locked me in on every single aspect of my life. Obviously, ignoring all the rest of that video, we still want to get lean. We still want to get shredded, but how can we do it without feeling like shit? There is this idea of something called body fat set point. And basically what it is that in nature, like in the wild, we will naturally maintain a certain body fat through homeostasis, through our body just wanting to do it because it is optimal for us. There was this study that looked at rats and basically came up with this idea of body fat set point, where if a rat would start to get too fat, it would then stop eating the food, versus if it started to get too skinny, it would eat more food to maintain this range of body fat that it would just do naturally. So with us, we all have this like natural range of body fat where we would sit somewhere on this range. If our body fat got too high in the wild and we're just fat and we couldn't run and we just rolled everywhere, we just get eaten in no time by anything. If we start to get too fat, our body will basically tell us to stop eating. It will secrete hormones telling us to stop eating, to stop us getting beyond this range. Similarly, if we get too lean, our body will basically create all these hormones, these hunger hormones, to make us eat and stay within this natural body fat range. This range varies from person to person. So Jeff Nippard did a really good video on this where he spoke about David Lade as a great example. David Lade just walks around lean all the time time with pretty much no effort whatsoever because of his natural body fat set point. The first thing to do is realize that everyone has this natural place where they sit in terms of body fat. Some people like David is going to be super, super lean. Some people like me is probably going to be pretty chubby or pretty fat. That's not my body fat set point, by the way. Please, God, don't let that be my body fat set point. Basically, what you can do is just find where your natural body fat set point range is, and then you just want to go slightly under it or kind of at the bottom end of this range where you can maintain relatively easily. For most people, it's probably going to be like 8 to 12% body fat, completely eyeballing it. Somewhere within that range is going to be the lower limit to where you can comfortably sit in terms of maintaining a good lean physique without getting all these side effects. So my plan now moving forwards, I'm just trying to find out where that lower limit of the range is going to be for me, where I can still feel good, enjoy myself, and actually not feel awful whilst looking good. In order to get to these like sick levels, who comes to mind? Like Mike Thurston, Joe Delaney, like these guys have really, really good physiques. It is about finding what works for you, finding how much cardio you can manage, what do you enjoy, what sort of training you can enjoy, how many calories can you eat as well, where you feel good and maintain that lean physique. And the only way you can get there is through commitment, hard work, trial and error. And there's going to be a point where it's probably not going to be worth your time to get past a certain level of body fat. Ultimately, it's the law of diminishing returns. As we start to get leaner, the amount of effort that it takes to get beyond that increases exponentially. So you've got to decide, like, where do you lie in this graph in terms of feeling good, looking good, and reasonable amount of effort that's maintainable, sustainable long term. But yes, boys and girls, that was the dark side to being shredded. I'm now a fat, obese man. As you can tell, I'm on the road to 300 pounds. Should be there in a while. I am joking, but it has been incredibly hard not to binge eat and not to like spiral out of control after the show. Like, I actually find it harder eating 3,000 calories a day than I do eating 1,600 calories a day on the contest prep. Like, I feel great. Like, I feel a million times better myself, but in terms of cravings, in terms of like the psychological effects of it, it's so much difficult not to go off the rails and spiral out of control after the show. But anyway, people, that was the dark side to being shredded. Hope you enjoyed the video. Drop it a comment for the algorithm if you liked it. Let me know if you like this like new format of videos, or just sit down and speak absolute shit for a while. Let me know what you want to see next week as well. Drop some video suggestions on there because I'm making them. If you want any of the sickest gym garms in the game, they quite often have a sale on when I make these. So Vanquish code MO10 to get 10% off. Huge supplements for all the supplements that I use, and then Physique Incubator as well for custom meal and training plans from myself. Lots of love. Thank you. Peace out. Good night.